Binance this morning, CZ, the CEO of Binance, tweeted out that they are buying a whole lot of Bitcoin and Ether using BUSD. They sold about $1 billion of USD for Bitcoin and Ether this morning, spending about $2 on the total transaction. And as CZ pointed out in the tweet, they did it all before the banks were even awake on Monday morning, showing the power of decentralized money all over the globe. Wendy, I want to throw this one up to you. I think it's a great story to show like the power of being able to move money very quickly over these open neutral networks. At the same time, it's a little bit of a shill, a tasteful shill, but a little bit of a shill.
I absolutely love this story. And the reason why is when you're going through Twitter and you're reading all the threads from multiple different small businesses, entrepreneurs that had funds at some of those banks, they says, we tried to wire X amount, but this got stopped. And a lot of people were left in the dark over the weekend because we all know that wires take time. I believe it's 5 to 7 days or 3 to 5 days. So a lot of people's funds got stuck. And this also happened with Circle. I believe they were able to wire out almost 40 billion, but 3.3 billion got stuck. So the fact that crypto is able to settle instantly just shows the valid use case that we have and shows the power of Bitcoin and crypto and why exactly we're in this industry. And I think that people are going to start taking notice, especially after the catastrophic actions that happened over the weekend and how many people were scared. Jen?
Yeah, I guess, so I have a question, but I'll leave that to the end of my take here. CZ was really all over this, as everyone was over the weekend. He tweeted that banks are a risk to fiat-backed stablecoins and also gave Do Kwon a little shout out saying he had the right idea but failed miserably on execution. I don't know how I feel about that given the information that's come out about Do Kwon. But I guess my question for you, Wendy, is how should we be looking at this from a market perspective? These coins are obviously pumping because CZ pumped $1 billion into the markets, right? How should just like the everyday person be looking at this?
So what I tell my audience all the time is I say, sit down, get your trading or investing journal, write the different pros and the cons of what action you want to take. You need to have an entry, you need to have an exit, you need to use disposable income, and you need to have a bullish and a bearish case for each scenario. And then you need to understand when you need to act on that bullish or bearish scenario. I personally do not think that the market is going to fully recover. A lot of people are excited. There's a lot of money dumped in the market, but at the same time, we are in a very scary, uncertain kind of area in the United States. Like, yes, the FDIC is going to come out and help some of these distressed banks. But at the same time, how are we going to be able to do that? Are we going to print more money? Are things going to get bad with the economy again? There's a lot of uncertainties out there. So I know it's exciting. People are making money, but at the same time, please make sure that you have trading or investing plan for a bearish scenario as well, just in case.
Jen, I like the mention of, the dream that will never die, the decentralized stablecoin, because stablecoins are absolutely critical, right? We heard, Wendy is paying her team in stablecoins, right? She doesn't necessarily want that in a native crypto asset, right? She wants some stability to make that work for that payments use case, right? They're critical to the ecosystem for trading and for functionality, but they're also critically dependent on these huge banks, right? And these banks there's risks to these banks that exist outside of the purview of crypto, right? So, whether it's Do Kwon or whether it's Arthur Hayes in a recent blog post saying, hey, we need to make a Bitcoin-backed stablecoin that exists parallel to these systems rather than being deeply intertwined, which is what we're seeing now with Circle, and which is what we might see with other institutions down the road, is that remains to be like sort of the holy grail, right? How do you make this stuff work? How do you get these stablecoins that have this great functionality in the market, but can exist in parallel rather than entirely dependent on the traditional banking system? And I think this is going to be, part of that aha moment where people are like, okay, Do Kwon may have been, an alleged crook, right? But the dream makes sense. The dream makes sense that you need to be able to build the system insulated from the whims of the central bank, insulated from the whims of the banking regulators, insulated from the winds of these macroeconomic headwinds that are putting all these regional banks in dire straits potentially. I think that is something that might animate a lot of building in the space going forward as crypto seeks to, decentralize all the things in response to regulatory crackdown in the US. And now this, I think, is extremely clarifying in terms of why this piece of infrastructure needs to be built, whether that's by Arthur Hayes or someone else, who knows. Will, I don't know. What are your last thoughts on this one?
I definitely agree with you. I'm glad you brought that point up. Decentralized stablecoins are critical. Bring crypto into cash or cash into crypto itself continues to be the hardest problem with crypto, whether you are in a developing country or the United States or in Japan, wherever you are. It's really hard to move fiat into crypto or vice versa. And mainly that's a regulatory issue. And then secondarily, it's an economics issue where these systems just don't seem to work very well together. And I think what we're seeing with Signet, Signature Networks, banking presence, and then Silvergate and its presence, the collapse of those two banks, are really just zeroing in on what the problem is with crypto and fiat right now. And we're going to have to build alternatives, right? Those two systems from Signature and Silvergate were built over the last few years. They don't exist anymore for all intents and purposes. They are gone. So we're going to have to build new ones. Hopefully it's some sort of decentralized stablecoin.